Good morning. The world is facing unprecedented disasters due to climate change. We're going to have floods, droughts, storms, food shortages, and other problems associated with it. Can we rely on God to help us out in these situations? Well, we first of all remember what God said to Abraham when he promised that Sarah would have a son beyond childbearing years. He said, "Is anything too wonderful for Yahweh?" That's in Genesis 18 and verse 14 and 15. And then again, when the Israelites wanted meat, and Moses said, well, how can God provide meat for this huge number in this nation of Israel? And God said to Moses, "Is the arm of Yahweh so short?" No, it wasn't, and he provided meat for them. But I'd like to look at the story of the widow of Zarephath. Now, this was the time when Ahab was king of Israel, and he was the worst king ever. He worshipped the Baals. They were awful gods, requiring human sacrifice and these debauchery in the form of orgies in order to awaken the gods to provide rain in the autumn. So because of this, Jehovah got Elijah to say to Ahab, look, because of your false worship and your badness, there will be a drought for over 3 years. Ahab, of course, hated Elijah for this and blamed him for the drought, when of course Ahab was the cause of the drought. Now, Ahab wanted to kill Elijah, so he went to the lengths of going to neighboring kingdoms and saying to them, "Do you know where Elijah is?" And when they said no, he made them swear that they didn't know where Elijah was. Elijah was hiding in the desert at the time. But because the drought took hold, his little stream dried up. So God said to him, look, go to Zarephath, where there's a widow, and she will provide for you. Now, Zarephath was between the cities of Tyre and Sidon, up in the north, and it wasn't an Israelite city. It was a Phoenician city. And the widow that lived there wasn't a Jewess, but she knew of this God Jehovah. And she had some faith in him because she'd heard the stories of how the Israelites had come out of Egypt and how they'd conquered the land of Canaan, and God had blessed them. So she had a little bit of faith in this God. So Elijah goes to Zarephath and he meets the widow outside the city. Now she's out there picking up sticks. Now she might have been beachcombing because Zarephath was on the coast. But whichever. So Elijah says to her, would she get him a drink of water? So it seems that she had access to a well, and she was about to go and get him a drink of water when he said to her, would you also get me some bread? Then she explained the situation. She was a widow, she was poor, all she had left was a little bit of flour and oil. She was collecting the sticks to make a fire, to cook this last meal for herself and her son, and then they would die of starvation. So Elijah says to her, okay, you go and do that, but first make me a little cake from the flour and oil. And he made this promise, and it's in 1 Kings 17 and verse 14, and he said this, Yahweh, the God of Israel, has said this, the jar of flour shall not be spent, the jug of oil shall not be emptied before the day when Yahweh sends rain on the face of the earth. And so it proved to be. The widow made the little cake for Elijah, and from then on, she, Elijah, and her son were able to eat until the rains came. And that was another 2 or 3 years to come. So God will provide for us. We won't get luxuries, but we will get what is essential. We can rely on him. We look at creation, we look around. He has provided wonderful things for us. He can do anything. He will help us through. Some might die, but we have the hope of the resurrection. Our faith in God is going to be tested as the world situation gets desperate, but we can have full reliance on God. So God bless you all, my dears, and take care.